Well, good afternoon. This is the first time as Chief Deputy that I am coming before you to announce the arrest of one of our own. These announcements are never easy to share, but are important to maintain our commitment to transparency and to our community. On September 5th, 24-year-old Darius Randolph of Port St. Lucie, who is assigned to the St. Lucie County Jail as a detention deputy, had an altercation with an inmate. The altercation stemmed from the inmates being distributed razor blades for hygiene purposes. After their use, they were collected, and it was determined that one razor was missing. Another deputy learned who had the missing razor and provided verbal counseling to that inmate and others in that cell, as well as recovered the missing razor. After leaving the cell, Deputy Randolph entered the cell. He instructed all the other inmates, other than the victim, to leave the cell, and then he physically shoved the victim into the wall and down onto the floor, causing him to receive a gash on his nose. After the altercation in the cell, Deputy Randolph escorted the victim into a common area, and he stated that he had no knowledge of how the inmate was injured. After receiving treatment for his injuries, the victim filed an internal complaint with our Detention Investigations Division. As with any and all inmate complaints, a review of the incident was conducted and an investigation into what occurred in the cell with Deputy Randolph was also launched immediately. That investigation proved that Deputy Randolph had entered the cell and had used excessive force on the victim. The actions of Deputy Randolph exceed the level of force outlined in Florida state statute and the Florida Corrections accreditation standards. Randolph has been an employee of the Sheriff's Office since March of 2020 and has had no prior disciplinary action. The members of this agency who work at the jail are entrusted with the care, custody, and control of all of our inmates. When that trust is broken and the highest standards are not met or maintained, even by one person, that person has failed our community and this organization. That failure tarnishes this agency and everyone who pins this badge on each and every day. Randolph was charged with battery and official misconduct. He was booked into the St. Lucie County Jail on a $5,750 bond and placed on unpaid administrative leave pending the outcome of an internal affairs investigation. While there are not many questions that I can answer due to the fact that we have a pending internal affairs investigation, I will now try and take a few questions from you guys.
Did Deputy Randolph explain what allegedly drove him to apparently beat up this inmate?
He did not.
He hasn't confessed or anything like that, or admitted to it?
He gave partial statements, but again, I don't want to really get into what his partial statements were because of the fact there is that pending internal affairs investigation that's going on. But part of his official misconduct is also the fact that he falsified a document, which would be his official report.
I'd like to ask you the name of the inmate. If you can't give me that, could you at least tell me what he was in for?
Okay, that inmate's protected by Marcy's law, so I can't give you the name or any other, demographical type details with regard to that inmate. As far as what that inmate was in for, our PIO, Mike, can provide you that information after this press conference.
I have a question. What was the, well, first, just a quick question. When was the date of this alleged incident?
September 5th. Yep.
And then, can you describe to me, you mentioned there's an internal affairs investigation still pending. Is that the criminal investigation for the charges he's in custody for now, or is that more for his employment with the agency, your guys' sort of internal review?
That's our internal administrative investigation within the agency. The criminal investigation takes place separately and takes place before that investigation. Sometimes they run concurrent with each other, but that is our administrative investigation.
So that is what's still pending?
Yes, correct.
Right now, the criminal investigation is being reviewed by the state?
Well, the state attorney's office has issued the warrant. He's been arrested and given a bond for those charges.
Did he spend any time in jail before posting bond, or did he post?
He posted the bond, I know that, but I don't know how quick he posted the bond. And again, maybe that's all probably public record, I believe, as well, so you guys can have access to when he bonded out.
Could you just clarify a little bit, because we started off with an incident involving razors that were hidden, I guess, and potentially used in the fight, and it was when the clearing out happened. Is there a direct connection between the razors and this particular incident involving the deputy and the inmate?
So let me clarify that. There wasn't a fight or anything with the razors. There was an incident where razors were handed out, hygiene, normal operation at the jail, where inmates are provided with razors to conduct their normal hygiene, but it's done so in a supervised manner. There's a certain number handed out, a certain number that are taken back in by those deputies that are supervising. When they went to take those razors back up from that hygiene, there was one missing. So deputies then came in and found where the missing razor, found the inmate that had the razor, and then, like I said, they verbally counseled him on that. After that, Deputy Randolph, when he went into the cell, the razor had already been recovered.
So it was the inmate with the razor who was the...
No,
It was not?
was not.
Okay. Just tell me just a little bit about the razors. I mean, you've seen the kind that you see that are used to slit wrists and stuff. I imagine that's not the kind that
No, it's not at all
the
that kind.
disposables, or what?
So I figured there'd be some questions on razors in our jail. But again, you got to remember, the inmates in our jail are, they have hygiene requirements and the dignity that they're allowed. They need deodorant and toothbrushes and to shave their faces and so forth and so on. But there's just a disposable razor, just like you'd buy at the store. There may be some specialty to them a little bit, just the fact that you can't take the pieces out and so forth, but it's just a normal razor.
So can you walk us through the events again? You said that Randolph, other deputies had found the razor, and then Randolph, after the razor was found, proceeded to walk into said person's cell and pushed him down and cause the laceration on his head.
Gash on his nose. And so the cell that I'm referring to, generally they have several inmates. It could be up to 6 bunks within that one cell. So after that razor was recovered by another deputy, and that incident was handled, Randolph went into that cell, ordered the other roommate or other inmates out, other than the victim, ordered him to stay in the cell. And then that's when the allegations that he shoved him against the wall and down on the floor, causing the gash onto his nose.
Gotcha. And you just said that that person was not found to be the one who had kept the shaver, razor.
That's correct. That person was not.
Was there any reason Randolph went into his cell, after this whole kind of razor search?
It's a great question. It's a question we have. And we don't have an answer to that, and it would be speculation if I did. He'll have to answer that to a judge or a jury, and he'll have to explain his actions.
Did the inmate ever say why Deputy Randolph was apparently triggered?
Not to my knowledge, he did not. He didn't know.
Were there any witnesses to the event, aside from the,
or video evidence?
There was not, and again, the investigation of that and the evidence with regard to the investigation of that will eventually become public record after the state goes through their process with it. But there were no witnesses to the incident, and there was no video of that incident.
So this is basically based off of the man who was allegedly shoved into the wall, his testimony, correct?
Well, that's one piece of it.
Okay.
That is one piece of it. So, all right. Well, listen. I'm going to wrap it up. One more.
Was the nose the other only injury, or were there any other?
I think a gash on the nose was the only visible injury or injury that was reported to our medical staff.